welcome to the September 28th, 2020 City Council meeting. Thank you for joining us in this remote meeting format we're using in response to Governor Brown's Stay Home, Save Lives order. This format enables the City Council to meet, hear from the community, and take care of business while keeping its members, staff, and the public safe. Following our first couple of items tonight, there will be a public forum followed by 2 action items. But first, I have a couple of housekeeping announcements to take care of. So the first is anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast 21, or by following the access instructions listed for this meeting on the public webcasts and meeting materials webpage. For those who join the meeting via computer device or phone, your microphone, webcam, and phone are automatically muted when you enter the meeting as an attendee. If you wish to participate during the public forum portion of the meeting and haven't already done so, please raise your virtual hand now to join the speakers queue in one of 2 ways. For those viewing the meeting on a computer, laptop, or other device, click once on the blue hand icon. For those listening to the meeting on a phone, press *9. We will continue accepting raised hands until 7:35. The meeting moderator will unraise or disallow any requests to speak that are made after the deadline. When the public forum begins, our meeting moderator will announce 2 speakers at a time. When it is your turn, the moderator will announce your name and unmute your microphone. You will have 2 minutes to speak. And I just want to thank everyone for your patience and your flexibility in adapting to this forum, and remind everybody that the counselors and I are all available by email and voicemail, and so that you can always follow up with us. And if there is testimony you were not able to provide, you can deliver it to us through email. And with that, our first item is committee reports and items of interest. And I also know that Councilor Ye has a motion to put before us, but are there other committee reports or items of interest from any other council? Oh, I don't have my participants, so I'm not seeing hands raised. And it looks like I have Councilor Syret.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry for the intrusion of the canine. It's one way to keep him calm, to let him sit on my lap. I just wanted to share, so I'm winding down my 2nd year serving as chair of the Lane Area Commission on Transportation, which is, a joint commission with Springfield, Lane County, and then several jurisdictions within Lane County plus stakeholders. And we are piloting with ODOT an area facilitated area strategies process, where we are going to be attempting to come up with, an additional piece that our act wants to add to this pilot is we want to create some visions and priority areas if we're able, and then area strategies in terms of different aspects of transportation infrastructure planning that the acts are responsible for. So we are one of 2 acts in the state that have been selected to pilot this process. It will take, a good 4 to 6 months, and should be very interesting. So I just wanted to share about that. And then when it's appropriate, I do need to make an edit to one of the meeting minutes that's in our packet.
Okay, perfect. I'll come back to you then. Councilor Pryor.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a quick update on the state DLCD process that's dealing not with House Bill 2001, that is a part of this, but I specifically wanted to mention the work that's being done on House Bill 2003, because that is also a part of this process. And for those that don't recall, House Bill 2003, it had 2 parts. The first part was a requirement that all communities beyond a certain size, which includes us, must complete an inventory of the needed affordable housing within the community. Not all housing. This isn't like our urban reserve discussion or just general growth. This is a specific inventory of the need for affordable housing, and that's defined using the federal classification. The second part of House Bill 2001 is that once that inventory is completed and there is a known amount of affordable housing that is needed in a given jurisdiction, you then have to prepare a strategy for how you are going to create that specific affordable housing. And the state will hold us to accomplishing that strategy, which means we not only have to compile the amount of affordable housing needed, but we also have to work on a strategy and report that to the state for how much and how we will actually build that affordable housing. And it's always been in my mind as we talk about our urban reserve conversation and all the other conversations around housing and incentives and what we're going to do, because there will come a time where we will have to actually convince the state and demonstrate to the state that we are ready to commit the code, the resources, and the incentives to actually building affordable housing. So we'll have to move beyond, I support affordable housing, I believe in affordable housing, and the state will actually hold us to actually build affordable housing. And the state recognizes that cities don't build affordable housing, so the strategy will have to be the way in which the city will support, incentivize, and assist in the construction of affordable housing. So we should keep that in mind in all of our conversations, that at a certain point, affordable housing will become more than a conversation. It will actually become something that we have to actually be involved in and demonstrate good faith effort to accomplish. And that's what House Bill 2003 does. The DLCD is actually approving and looking at the final recommendations for how that inventory process will go, what's going to be incorporated in making that inventory, and then what will the strategies to actually create and support affordable housing will need to be able to do in order to demonstrate a good faith effort to create it. So I wanted to give you an update, not just on 2001, but also on 2003.
That is helpful to hear. Thank you. And Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that Jennifer and I are on the police commission, and we have a meeting on Thursday, and we are going through the tedious task of going through the technical police policies. And last time we did one on handcuffs, and so we're going through all of these different policies. You can go to the city's webpage, look up the policies that we're going to do. I think there's, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 of them, I think, that we're specifically going to take up. It's kind of above and beyond what the ad hoc group is going to be, committee is going to be doing. So if you want to weigh in on that, there's a public comment period, and that's Thursday night. It starts at 5:30, and the public comments towards the very beginning of the meeting.
And I will just follow that by saying that the first meeting of the ad hoc committee on police policies is on Wednesday night from 6 to 8. And that is a Zoom meeting, and it is open to the public. And so information about how to access that is on the city's website. So that is our first kickoff for that very important work. So a lot happening this week. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Ye.
Thank you. So that's an excellent segue into what will be, I promise, the last housekeeping motion for our ad hoc committee on police policy. So I'll just make it. Move that notwithstanding council's September 1st deadline for groups to appoint ad hoc committee representatives, Abdul Raham Yesa is the second representative of the Eugene Islamic Center appointed to the ad hoc committee on police policy.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the motion, please raise your hands. Real or virtual? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're missing 1. Thank you. And none of
hands.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Ye, for bringing that forward, and happy to have that committee complete and ready to do their work, and very grateful to the folks who have stepped up to do that work, which is going to be 10 meetings over several months. So it's a big commitment. Okay, the next item is our consent calendar. Can I have a motion?
I move to approve the items on consent calendar 1.
Second.
And Counselor Surratt, did you want to speak to the minutes?
Yeah, I need to have a minor amendment changed in the September 14th meeting minutes. It states under council discussion items of interest that she said she volunteered at Emergency Distribution Center. At that point, I said I was signed up to volunteer at Emergency Volunteer Center. I had not yet at the time that this was stated, so I don't want to misrepresent. And I didn't actually get to volunteer because the air quality continued to be terrible, and I had to back out. So I don't want it stated that I volunteered when I didn't actually do it.
Okay, fine. We'll call for that change in the minutes. And Counselor Clark, did you also raise your hand for a comment? No. All right. So a vote to approve the minutes with that correction from Counselor Surratt. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you very much. So that takes care of the consent calendar. Thank you. We are now ready to go on to the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak. When it is your turn and your microphone has been unmuted, please state your name clearly and, for Eugene residents, your ward, if known, before beginning your comments. If you're watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light and beep indicate the end of the 2 minutes. When your time has concluded, the moderator will mute your microphone and move on to the next speaker. For those who have connected to the meeting via phone and don't have the benefit of seeing the timer, please be aware that your microphone will be muted at the 2-minute mark. And so with that, I believe I'm ready to turn it over to the moderator. How many speakers do we have signed up?
We have 2 speakers this evening.
All right, well, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Mayor.
We have to get the timer queued up to the right time.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Our first speaker is Catherine Dunn, followed by M. Yook.
Hello, Catherine Dunn. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Catherine Dunn, Ward 5, member of Astra Eugene Short-Term Rental Association. I read through everything for the meeting tonight, and I want to let you know that Astra is ready to help you get the word out about the registration process beginning January 1st. We're excited to help you with this. In fact, I did tell my first person that's brand new, she didn't even know anything about what was been going on, so I let her know this today that she'll need to register her new short-term rental. I did review the actual proposed ordinance, and I have some comments, some suggestions. In fact, I have 3 of them. Under Section 1 definitions, the definition of owner is unclear to me, and I'm in the business of this. And that could be because you may not be aware of the different types of hosts. So, for example, is an owner a person who actually owns the building or the lot? Or could an owner have an ownership interest and not own the building or the lot, but owns an ownership interest in the business that operates there? That's what's confusing about it to me. In Section 2(1)(a), it does say we must provide all required information, including but not limited to, and then some basic information after that, and that's all fine. But the words including but not limited to make me a little bit nervous, considering how we have had some miscommunication with what the council wanted and what was actually presented by the city. So I would suggest that the council review the proposed registration materials to ensure it is within the scope of what you do intend to happen. And Section 2, number 3, it also says a registration fee may be utilized. We have talked about that. But again, I would suggest that at the time a fee is being considered, that the council approve that fee to ensure it is within the scope of what your intention is. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Matthew Yook.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, sorry about that. Hi, I'm Matthew Uke. And I was gonna speak on short-term rentals just because that was on tonight's agenda, and I don't think that was quite germane to what public commentary is. But I remember someone stating that there are more short-term rentals that are in the area than what the TAC report suggested we needed to build to house people that were under that. As just a side note, especially looking back at the work session that happened earlier tonight, talking about zoning, and which ties directly into density when talking about border zones and buffer zones. And so there's a little bit of concern I have, especially with the idea that a buffer zone makes an area more walkable as opposed to actually putting businesses down there or spaces that people can live in. So that way they walk out after getting home from work and then go and patron a boutique or specialty store, as downtowns often need to be a vital artery of commerce. And so, looking at the blanket kind of idea that completely dismissed some of the specific surgical iterations, I heard a lot of the people supporting that motion to really be capable of because of how loosely it was worded and then how it was compared even to the short-term rental idea of we're going to create an ad hoc committee, or sorry, not an ad hoc committee, but we're going to create a code style with public input that I don't know, that has been classically shown to not incorporate all the people needed to make the final decision that actually impacts the people walking down there, as opposed to people.
Thank you. That concludes your time. And Mayor, that concludes the public forum.
Okay, thank you very much, Jessica. And I do notice that Councilor Clark wants to make a comment.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. I want to make sure that if Catherine is on this, nope, there she is right there. Okay, excellent. To prepare that when we get to the point where we're making motions regarding rental housing, that I would like to have some kind of motion, if you can scroll it quickly, that would accomplish the idea of eliminating the words mentioned in the public testimony, but not limited to. I'm not sure how we do that in this setting, but I could use your assistance, City Attorney, to remove those words referenced, and as well as to make provision that the fees for this come before council for approval.
Okay. I'll draft something up quick.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, any other comments on the testimony? All right. Thank you to both of you who came to testify. And Matthew, I'm happy to follow up and talk to you at another time if you want to reach out to me and we can talk about some of the things you brought up. And with that, we finished with the public forum and we'll move on to our first action item. An ordinance concerning short-term rental registration, amending section 3.005 of the Eugene Code 1971 and adding section 3.350 to that code. Do we need any presentation on this or clarification, or should we, why don't we just put the motion on the table?
I know I'm going to want to go for Mike's change, but here's the starting point. Move to adopt the proposed ordinance in attachment A, an ordinance concerning short-term rental registration, amending section 3.005 of the Eugene Code 1971 and adding section 3.350 to that code.
Second.
Okay, and I know we have discussion on this. So Councilor Clark?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move the amendments that are certain to be forthcoming here in a moment when our city attorney diligently finishes her work. I'm trying to give her a minute there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I just have a real quick question, Councilor Clark. So right now, the way it's written is that it says must provide all of the required registration information, including but not limited to, and then it lists it. The way that this would be changed, it would take out a registered
Not limited to.
Well, it would also need to take out all the required registration information, and because we're not listing out all the required registration information in the code. So what you would be doing is it would be a registrant must provide the street address of the short-term rental, local contact name, phone number, which means nothing else could be asked of them, including their name and like some of the simple, we just didn't make that code section as extensive because some of the rote things that are on all these forms, we don't list in the code. We listed the more substantive ones. So I'm not telling you can't do it. I just want to let you know what that amendment would be.
How would you propose we solve the reality that as of today, the information that we've agreed to gather is fine, but to be able to request any further information that be required come before council before it's put into place, rather than be done administratively?
Okay, so, and as it doesn't look like, so there's nothing explicit here. Typically, any more like substantive requirements would be done through administrative rules. The code amendment, this code section doesn't have a specific section authorizing the administrative rules. So what I could try to do, as you all are discussing, we could try to put in something that uses the word substantive so that you don't have to list out all of the kind of myopic things you don't really care about. So let me try to get
the other way, which is to say any change in registration information shall come before council for approval.
Let's see how we get there. A registrant must provide.
While she's thinking about how we get there, I think, you know, both of these things, like what we've committed and what you've asked us to get from people and what you've put in your expectation of fees, some of this is a trust relationship between us. I don't think you're going to want to get into a place where you're wanting to approve every single fee and every single thing. I think, you know, we've heard pretty loud and clear what kind of information you want to gather. And I can't imagine that we would go, well, we're also going to add to that, even though you said you didn't want to. So
right. And Sarah,
we can keep doing this, but I think it's going to be really hard to get all of the exact motion language.
I couldn't agree more. Sometimes this is hard. I want to take a quick pass at it. I would trust you with my children, but some future council and some future city manager or some future staff person managing this particular program may not have the same understanding, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. Catherine, do you have a quick, more general way we might solve that issue?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way we could do it is say, must provide the, gosh, I'm just trying to get substantive versus more administrative, right? That's what you're getting at. We're getting at. A registrant must provide all of the, I mean, we could say, well, I mean, my go-to language is all, including but not limited to, because that just allows us to ask for things that aren't specifically delineated. Let's see.
That's too wide open for me. That's why I want to vote in favor of it, but that's a little too wide open for me.
Yep, I get that. We'll get there.
Well, you're thinking about that, Catherine. I think Councilor Surratt has a comment, and I'll let her speak.
If I could, Mayor, I just, with the last minute 22 here, I would just say, I thought what she brought up was reasonable. So if we have language that people can live with there, that doesn't restrict us and doesn't collect the information that we absolutely need, what I want to do is avoid it being wide open so that it can be changed arbitrarily at some point by without at least some check-in at council. And the other piece then was specifically with the fees. That has a way of creeping up every year, and certainly things like the rental housing charge, rental housing code charge come before us, the door charge, and I think this is one of those pieces that should come before us as well.
Counselor Syret?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I was just thinking I might have a suggestion on the registration language with Catherine mentioning substantive. Maybe instead of changing the language there, we could add a sentence that says, should any more substantive changes be made to the required information, the proposal will be brought before council for review and input. Something along
I'd
those
accept that as a friendly.
Well, so I mean, typically speaking, everything that changes the code has to come before you. So I think that if we can get there, if we say a registrant must provide all the required registration information, substantive information limited to street address. So if we just say the substantive information is limited to that, I think that gets you where you want to go.
Okay.
And then, oh, sorry. And then I'm wondering if this is being too persnickety, but you know, when you write a contract, you want it to be clear what you're expecting of people. So if it says a local contact name and phone number, I would feel more comfortable. It said a local contact name and phone number of a person responsible for attending to the property.
I'd take that in my motion as well.
So I'm just going to throw out there that the reason why we hate amending ordinances on the fly is because the minute you raise your hand, it's going in our code exactly as we're doing it right now. And so I'm just throwing that out there as we have to live with those kind of the funky wording we may not like on the back end. So let me try to get something that I can read so you know exactly what you're voting on. That'd
be great.
Okay.
And then later, maybe when we're through this, I just had a question, Catherine, if I'm assuming you're comfortable with the definition of an owner, that's a legal framework.
Yeah.
It's typical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That doesn't concern me.
Yeah, I figured.
So Catherine, would it be helpful? I mean, I know this is a little odd because we have this action item open, but if you continue to get the rest of the feedback, should we move on to the next item and then come back to this for the final vote? Can we do that?
Yeah, so the motion is on the table, correct, and seconded? Okay, so yep, just leave it up there. You can go and then we'll loop it back around and I will get the amendments. And Councillor Clark, I also heard you wanted to make an amendment about the fee as well.
Yeah, fee change comes before council.
Okay.
So the only thing before we move on to a different item, I have several other counselors who've raised hands. So maybe we should hear what they have to say first. So I've got Councillor Pryor and then Councillor Zelenka.
Yeah, just quickly. I agree with the notion that the fee should at least be run by the council, similar to what we do with others. I recognize that fees are an administrative function. The city manager has the authority to impose fees, but I think, and our history has already shown this, city managers don't tend to do that, particularly with an item like this, unless they run it by the council first. So whatever you want to put together, I don't want to intervene in the city manager's authority, but I do want to put something in there that says the city manager will inform the council of any desire or interest in changing the fee, or ask for feedback. In other words, make sure we're aware that the city manager is thinking about changing the fee. With regard to the registration information, the kind of challenge I'm having is we're backing ourselves into a corner. I mean, what I'm hearing is, oh, well, I'm worried some future council is going to use information gathering as some sort of punitive punishment to short-term rental owners. I think information gathering isn't something that you necessarily are going to be using to punish short-term rental owners. I think it's a way to collect information. And so if we say, well, let's figure out a way to only gather this much information, we may find that there's other kinds of information we want, not to punish short-term rental owners, but just because we'd like to know. I mean, Claire came up with one just off the cuff. And so to both the city manager and the city attorney's point, we're trying to write something off the cuff, kind of out of the fear that some future council is going to use this information to punish short-term rental owners. I don't have that impression. I don't want to limit myself in terms of legitimate information that I may want to have that it hasn't occurred to me now. So I'm looking for a way, and maybe Catherine, you can craft this so that we're not over solving this. In other words, we're trying to do something because we're worried some future council are going to be bad, when we may actually want we may want to know more than just basic information. And I don't think information collection is necessarily a punishing or a bad thing. Information is useful. I don't want to make them have to fill out a book every year. That's not what I'm looking for, and I'm not ready to do that, and I don't see anyone else in this virtual room ready to do that, and I don't foresee some future council suddenly going crazy and wanting to do that too. So I'm not going down that road. I think councils act in a more responsible way. And so I don't think that collecting information by either this council or some future council is going to be used as some backhanded way to punish short-term rental owners, because there's 8 of us, and it would be pretty tough to get 8 counselors to all go crazy at the same time.
Counselor, prior to speak to that, the way that the code is written, it is limited to just information collection. So the only way to address the scope of the information would be to limit it substantively, since I think we already captured what you're addressing by just having it be a registration. So if we want to limit the information that's gathered for the registration, it would need to be what Councilor Clark is speaking to, which is saying this is the substance of it all. And I think I've got something there if we want to keep talking. I know other people are in the queue, so we might be able to get this all done as I'm madly typing, and I'm sorry, I'll mute myself next time so you don't hear my tappity tap. And then the other one being on the fees. The 2.020 is your code's authorization to the city manager to adopt the fees. And so if we want just simply a notification to the council prior to that happening, I think what we would want to do is leave it at 2.020, because that is her delegated authority to adopt the fees. The council doesn't adopt them, but add in a sentence that says prior to starting that process, she would be notifying you, because then you could have a work session on it if you want to, but it leaves the authority with the city manager, if that sounds like I'm capturing it.
And I just want to clarify, what I understand is that we're not proposing a fee in year 1, but leaving it open in case there's a possibility of more labor. And Denny may be able to speak to that too, or Lydia, I'm sorry.
If I could clarify, well, I'll wait for my position in the queue, Mayor, but there's 2 points I'd clarify.
All right, I have Councilor Zelenka and then Councilor Clark. You can come back.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Mike, you well know we can't bind future councils, so
that wasn't my intention, and that's one of my clarifications. I
mean, you can say what our intent is, and we actually, this is an evolving thing. I think we may want other information down the road, and anyway, whatever we put in there, the future council can just change it with majority vote. So, I do like Claire's ad about the change to add the responsible party. It's going to take care of the property language. That's I think that was the intent behind it. And as far as the fees concerned, that really bothers me. This is a dangerous precedence if you're intending to have this be approval of a fee. We don't approve fees, and the council doesn't want to be involved in the fee setting process under 2.020. And that's an administrative function. We can, and I don't have a problem with the city manager notifying us. She does that on almost every single fee that we have, notifies us what's going on. So I don't have any problem. Catherine, isn't that already part of 2.020? That the city manager notifies the council?
I think there's a memo that gets routed. I think it's part of the practice. I'm not sure that it's embedded in the code.
It's certainly part of the practice. It's been since I've been on council. Every time there's been a fee increase, we've seen it. So I don't want to see the council get in the business of approving every fee. There's hundreds of them that we charge, and that's not what our job is.
Yeah, I'm going to send this back to Mike in a minute, but I just do want to add that I just want us to keep in mind the difference between policy making and operations, and kind of recognize where you're stepping over a line. And this fee is clearly the city manager's purview. It's really, you know, you're not supposed to get down in the weeds like that. That's why you have a city manager. And so just, I think there is a level here in which the way in which these things are done is very well established, both by code and by precedent. And, you know, so just a caution there about how far you tiptoe into the details here and how you try to manage this. So Councilor, you want one other comment, or Catherine, are you ready to?
I'll just let you know.
No, if I could, Mayor, I'd like to be able to speak first. Two things. Number one, I had my whole comment at first was to come back to council before any changes in information gathering. The council can do anything they want in the future. And my point was, I didn't want the staff to make that decision arbitrarily, that there would be some new level of information gathering without council approving that. That's the reason for the motion in the first place. And in the second place, do we alter with the rental housing code and the door charge? Do we have, doesn't that come before us? That was my example. I don't want to get into the weeds with this any more than anybody else does. And certainly I'd be fine with notification, like the stormwater fee. But I was under the impression that with the rental housing code, we are the ones that approve the $10 charge or the whatever it is per door. Am I wrong about that?
I think you set the initial fee and it goes into it's in our administrative fee order, but I don't know if you approve all of the updates to that. Lydia probably has the details on
Yeah,
that.
I can see her.
Doesn't have the details. We'll have to look into that. It's possible that you do.
Because it's come up before council on a couple of occasions. Should we've had the $300,000 excess amount of money in the fund, and do we or do we not approve an increase or a decrease in that? And so in a similar way, that's why I was suggesting it come before council. I certainly don't want to set a precedent that that's the case, because if we're doing it with rental housing, it's very nearly the same. And that was the reason I said it that way. But I'm fine with notification because it gives us the same opportunity, which is to jump in and act if we think that's, as a group, think that's necessary. So I'm fine with that. I'm also fine with Claire's ideas that she mentioned as a friendly amendment in this. But with the first one, again, it wasn't about whether or not a future council can act. I didn't say it that way. It was about whether staff acts independently of council with regard to what it's collecting in the way of information.
So I'm looking at 2.020 just as the stormwater fees is a very unique manner in which the stormwater fees come. And I think we've talked about that before. So the way 2.020 works is it's a simultaneous notification. So council does get notification during that 15-day period. So you could call it up and say, we want to talk about this.
Right, that's fine.
Okay, so that's baked in. So I think we're good on subsection 3. Okay, I won't jump into the queue when everyone's done. I think
my motion's still on the floor. If you have it already, I'd love to finish this up.
I have it. So the way I believe I'm capturing you is it says it would be moved to amend section 2 so that 3.350 subsection 1 subsection A states a registrant must provide all the required registration information, the substantive registration information limited to the street address of the short-term rentals, a local contact name and phone number of a person responsible for the short-term rental, and whether the short-term rental is owner occupied. The provided information must be kept up to date.
I'm fine with that because then a change by necessity comes before council rather than can be changed ad hoc by staff. I'm fine with that.
And Councilor Syrett, did I capture your friendly? Okay. Okay. So that is now I believe the Counselor Clark, did you get a second? I'm sorry.
I don't think I understand what you just said, Mike.
Okay, it is my amendment to alter the ordinance as Catherine has just read it.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of this amended motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? 1. Okay, that passes 6-1.
So now
I
you
didn't
have,
see it. I just had a curiosity. Who voted against it?
Betty.
so now you have on the table the ordinance as amended.
Right. All in favor of the
Nah.
Alan, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to vote no on the motion. I like the amendments because they make it better and stronger and more in tune with what the council was talking about. But I'm going to vote no because I don't think this does anything except for it certainly doesn't solve any of the problems that SDRs create. We basically punted on all of that, and I'm sure it will come back to us. So that's not the end of this issue. Other than count the number of short-term rentals we have, I don't think it does anything beyond that.
Okay, anybody else? Betty, Councilor Taylor.
Thank you. I will also be voting no because this doesn't do anything. We had a start a few months ago when we were brought a possible ordinance about short-term rentals, and that died somehow. And this doesn't do anything. We need to do something. It goes back to doing things only after there's a problem. Some people said, well, there's not a big problem now. The time to do something is before there is. And the book which Sarah gave us, which I think we all got, starts out with something, with a story about doing something to prevent catastrophe before it happens. And we have plenty of examples of what has happened in other communities with short-term rentals and how they have destroyed the affordable housing. And I'm saying affordable, not subsidized, affordable housing supply. And I think that this is ridiculous that we haven't, after all this time, we haven't really done anything if we pass this motion. So I will vote against it. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1, 2. So it passes 5-2. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, City Attorney, for walking us through those fine points. I appreciate it. Okay.
My favorite hobby, writing code on the fly.
Mine too. Lots of fun.
Okay, now we're on to our next last action of the evening, an ordinance extending the term of ordinance number 20170, granting to Northwest Natural Gas Company, a corporation and non-exclusive natural gas franchise to May 11, 2021. And so I will turn that over to Council President Semple.
Move to adopt an ordinance extending the term of ordinance number 20170, granting to Northwest Natural Gas Company, a corporation, a non-exclusive natural gas franchise to May 11th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion, comments, questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? 1. Okay, that passes 6-1. Thank you very much.
Who is the opposed?
Betty. Thank you all very much. I think that completes our business for the evening. And thank you for a kind of pretty robust night of conversation, and have a good evening and see you on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Bye.